to be talking about what it means to observe light and shadow. And if we're starting out with complete black, we can give ourselves a little bit of light, something to see. And so here we are in our dark cave, and there's a little bit of light coming in. And we can see that it's shining on some little stones, so we can put the highlight of these stones. So everything that we're doing with art is kind of like an optical illusion for the viewer. And our brains are just wired to see things and interpret what they are. So if we're drawing, we're giving our viewer clues. And so that can go for really representational art, where we're trying to make our art very realistic. And that can also go for more abstract art, where we're not necessarily representing a specific thing. But we'll come to see how we can use color, shape, and form, and we're able to communicate even without representation. So color, form, shape, line, they all have a feeling associated with them. So that's why I take time to think about what it means to be an artist, and what the core principles of being creative are. So what does that mean? You're taking it upon yourself to bring something new into the world. It's almost like magic. Something that didn't exist before becomes real. And so that's why it's cool to pick up this craft, where we're able to use our eyes to see the world around us and try and imitate what we see to create experiences. So here we are, we've just got a little tiny spot of light here that we're starting with. And maybe some rocks. I'm even shading, using shadow again to make this even darker. And I'm also getting more of a texture on this wall by moving my brush in different directions. So we're in a process here where we're trying to pull out the shapes and the forms. So we can start with observing something from real life. We could go out into nature. Right here I'm just kind of going from my imagination, and this is based on my past experiences where I've observed and I've drawn light and shadow. And so we'll notice the forms can be found. Something's gradually going from light to dark. We can tell that that shape has a smooth transition. And then if we see something with a hard edge, where the transition happens very rapidly, we know that it's a sharp edge. So we can start using that. Another thing that we use to understand the world with what we see is scale, so the size of things. We can discern distance, how far away things are, by looking at the relative size of other objects. So again, we can create the illusion of depth, things that are going back deeper. So why don't we do that? Why don't we create some depth? So maybe these are some rocks that are deep on this back side of my cave. And so I'm going to go ahead and put in some more light a little closer. So maybe we've got this larger shape that's closer to us. At this point we're in the dark. We don't know what this is. This could be an elephant, this could be a rock, this could be anything that we can imagine at this point. But if there was a crack, if there was a hole in the ceiling of this cave, we'd see some light. And I can already see where the light is very powerful. So it's going all the way to this full intensity brightness. So I can use my tools to kind of correct what I've done. So the drawing process becomes like a drafting process where you're checking, you're laying down a line, and then you're seeing what the effect is. Did you get it correct? And you can always use an eraser or your undo tool, and you can try again. So it's okay to kind of play around until you get it right. And so as we're just kind of thinking about form and shape at this phase, and we can start getting towards details that we notice. So in my case, I'm not actually observing anything, but if there were some cracks in this wall, I don't want to make these really dark. So these are the places where the rock is raised and it casts a shadow. So if I have a large bump in the rock, maybe it's leaving a shadow behind. So I can make this, if it's got a bump that comes up, I can have the shadow that would fall beneath it. The reason we have to do lots of observation from life is because lighting always changes, and you could think of different conditions. A bright sunny day versus an overcast day. And so the types of textures that I'm putting on here are really going to tell you what kind of rock this is. So other thing I like about being an artist and being on this hero's journey, this quest to become a master, is to understand the world like on a scientific basis. So if I want to understand these rocks, there's different geology. The story of the rock goes back millions of years, and so sometimes the valley that we're looking at was worn out by a stream. It spent hundreds of thousands of years carving away at the earth. So what is the geologic process that creates this type of rock that I'm drawing? If this is, some sort of hard shale versus a hard granite, so as an artist you pick up knowledge in all these other areas. And so drawing can be the thing that kind of guides us. You can have a notebook that's like a field journal, and you can just be sketching away and trying to understand what is going on in this world that we live in. And as soon as you take up the task of learning to draw the world, you start needing those tools, that scientific literacy. Okay, so already I'm just trying to show how simple it is to bring out these light and shadow using these simple techniques of soft, smooth transitions between dark and light, and then hard edges between light and dark. I could even come back in here and just to emphasize that, I can do the same thing with my putting in these highlights. So to make these edges look even harder, I can put in highlights of white. Is where the light might actually catch an edge. So this is kind of lesson number one, is to go ahead and make these cave drawings. And then as you get farther along, the next stage is to go ahead and start really getting some stuff out of your system and decorating your cave walls.